Hello, welcome to part two. So some things I didn't cover part one. It just came to my mind about this. I remember Trent Horn a long time ago saying, they spoke Aramaic, and there's no distinction between the rock Christ versus the um, Peter, the rename of Peter. So basically, this rock here for the in Aramaic and the Peter here in Aramaic, they're the same. And in the Greek, we get clarification. There's a distinction. So anyway, aside from the fact that the translator, the Greek, they would have had a conversation to possibly get clarification. We have a more precise language so we get a better understanding what's going on. Let's just put that aside for a moment. The fact that they had the conversation here, John 1, chapter 1, 41, 42, it totally makes that argument invalid, because here Jesus renamed Simon to Peter, okay, but he didn't even say upon this rock I'll build my church. If there was a time that it built on Peter, that's what Jesus intended. He would have done it in John chapter 1, 41 to 42. He would have done it here if it's really built upon Peter and not the Spirit of Christ. Okay? He would have done it here. So that argument made by Trent Horn, it's null. It had no. It's not even a valid argument because of this conversation here. So anyway, another thing I want to point out. What was it? Oh yeah. So when they had this conversation, so obviously there was an interchange that took place in Peter. It only makes sense that the other disciples, except for Judas, would have also had that same experience. So when Jesus said, he's talking to all of them, by the way, in front of them, upon this rock open the church, they knew what he was talking about, based on what was happening inside of them internally. They would have known exactly what he's talking about. And so we know just 2 chapters later, they all had the keys in kingdom, binding and loosing. Okay. So, it only makes sense. Why would the rest of them not experience this until, I don't know, a day later? Then that would make no sense. We know for sure they all did by this point. Okay, it only makes sense that they all would have experienced that time. That way they understood what Jesus meant, and also understood why Jesus told them to not tell anybody that he was the Christ. Okay, because there's that internal aspect to it. So by going around, he's the Christ, like this right here, based on flesh and blood, you can no longer test them whether they're Antichrist or not many years later. Okay, this is in 1 John. See, the Jewish Christians who confessed Jesus Christ based on that internal aspect, not based on flesh and blood. So Jesus wanted to keep that aspect going. He didn't want to revert back in this direction based on flesh and blood. Then they can no longer test them whether they were a Christ or not. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Because John wrote 1st or 2nd John, testing them by asking if they believe that Jesus Christ came in the flesh, and if he is the Christ, they believe he's the Christ. That was a way to test them. If you just go around based on flesh and blood telling everybody that Jesus is the Christ, then there's no way to test. But if it's based on that interchange of spirit, then the test is valid. Okay, during their time. And this was during their Daniel chapter 12, verse 12 prophecy, the 1335-day prophecy, which is from August 15th of 66 all the way to April 10th of 70. That very afternoon they fled the temple. Okay, so that's why I believe Jesus told them not to tell he was the Christ. He wanted to be based on the Spirit, what just took place there, not based on just flesh and blood. Alrighty. So anyway, those are just a couple thoughts few thoughts I thought about after making the previous video. I'm going to call part one. All right. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and hope you have a great day. All right.